are here in Burlington on the historic Church Street, and today we are going to look back at its history with local historian Bob Blanchard.
Hello. We're going to talk about the Church Street Marketplace, which is the 4 blocks from Main to Pearl. How did this become the center of commerce in Burlington? It was actually by design. The town proprietors, that's what they were called, in the village of Burlington, this was in 1798, got together and set aside 2.5 acres of land as a village common, now City Hall Park, but back in those days it was called Courthouse Square, even though it was oval. The first public buildings in Burlington were built on that square. Even though the waterfront was kind of the center of everything in the really early days, everything, and I mean everything, started locating up in this area. Churches, stores, banks, hotels, you name it. This was the center of everything. Everybody knows that there's a church at the top of Church Street, but what a lot of people may not know is that at the Main Street end of Church Street, this building here was built as a Baptist church. What is it?
There's a whole band coming down the street.
Okay.
And then we were interrupted by a parade. It was students from Burlington High School saying goodbye to the downtown school after 5 years in a former department store. And historically, parades have always been popular on Church Street.
Back in the old days, both high schools were downtown.
So Church Street. It's
Yeah.
just like you never know
I know.
what you're gonna find on Church Street.
I know. You know, back in those days, everything, all the streets were dirt everywhere. The dirt, when it rained, turned to mud. And that was a big issue. So what they had was they had brick crosswalks. There were wooden sidewalks, elevated, up and down both sides of the street. The wooden awnings were replaced with cloth, canvas awnings. Horses were the means of transportation for everything. And of course, they did their business right in the street. And so there was a guy whose job it was, maybe more than one, to clean that up. There were hitching posts. So that building there was built in 1902 as the Howard Bank. This across the street is the old Chittenden County Trust Company. The corner of Church and College, there was a massive building here called the YMCA building, burned in 1928. You can see the charring from the 1928 fire. I sent you a picture of what was here before the YMCA building. Back in the old days, once the sun went down, Church Street was dark. All you had was, gas or kerosene lanterns. So that changed in 1854. And so you see a lot of really old pictures of Church Street with gas lampposts. But the big change came in 1886 when electric street lighting hit Church Street. That was a massive game changer for Church Street because it was like daylight for people. They had never seen anything like it. Let's talk about public transportation. There were a lot of wagons in old photos of Church Street because there were a lot of deliveries, because by then there were stores and other buildings of commerce up and down the street. The Winooski and Burlington Horse Railroad. It looked like a small trolley car that ran on railroad tracks, and it was pulled by horses. And then in 1893, they had electricity all of a sudden. The electric trolleys ran from 1893 until 1929, so it was a good long run. And then the trolley cars were put out of business by the buses. Everybody loved Bailey's music rooms, including me. Very successful, sold pianos, organs, and sheet music. Most well-off homes had a piano or an organ, and at least one person that knew how to play it. There was actually a bank building here, and that's how Bank Street got its name. The Howard Opera House, so there was a 3rd floor amphitheater, which sat, I think, around 1,400 people. It was big. The bottom floor, as I keep saying, was always retail, always. Cars came in very gradually. There's lots of old photos of Church Street with a trolley car in the middle, a bunch of horse wagons, and a few cars parked on the side. So gradually, and it took years, cars replaced horses. The street was concreted in 1923, and it was paved with asphalt in 1948. And that's when it really became the strip of Burlington. It was two-way traffic, but what kids used to do, because cars were pretty common by then, it got more and more common with each passing year, they would cruise Church Street, see what was going on, check out the bars, check out, the girls, whatever. So in 1959, Church Street was made one way. And so that continued to be a favorite activity pretty much until they closed it to cars. I think they've lost some members. Well, this is one of the oldest business blocks on Church Street, circa 1850. This was a classic store, Kelly Pharmacy. It was many pharmacies. It went way back. So the Concord Candy Kitchen was a soda fountain, very popular with the high school kids at BHS and Cathedral because they were right downtown. Soda fountains were everywhere in downtown Burlington, everywhere.
It's loud on Church Street is what it is.
The car killed a lot of things. As cars became less expensive and more widespread, people drove more. The entrepreneurs in the area responded by building shopping centers. The merchants on Church Street were starting to really feel the pinch. But that's why the Burlington Square Mall was built and the parking garages. It opened in 1976. It was their attempt to compete with the shopping centers. The Burlington Square Mall, in my opinion, always struggled. Sears, which had been here for a long time, they moved to Shelburne Road. That was devastating. Abernathy's closed, I think, in '83. Megram's closed in '90. And then eventually Penny's left for the new mall. They were the anchor stores, and then they both left for South Burlington over time. So that was a bad time. Stores that had been in business for over a century just folded. So it was Panic City. So Church Street kind of became a street of boutiques at that point.
The Church Street Marketplace was founded in 1981, and eventually the entire street was closed to traffic and became the pedestrian brick walkway that we enjoy today.
Well, there was a lot of debate about closing the street to traffic. Well, it took almost 2 years, I think. They tore up the whole street. They put in new utilities and the brick work and these glass awnings, which I am not a fan of, I gotta say. I like seeing the stores, And then, of course, I don't know if you really want to get into this, but the recent troubles, downtown have definitely affected the marketplace.
How can we not get into it?
Yeah, I don't feel unsafe. A lot of people say, I don't want to get shot, I feel unsafe. I don't feel unsafe, but you see things you don't want to see necessarily, The FW Woolworth store was here for 100 years. Started in 1899 on Church Street. It's very small, kept growing. It had a classic old store with creaky floors, and I loved it because, it had licorice whips hanging on hooks, and the two buildings at the top are both icons. So this was built as the Grand Lodge of the entire state of Vermont's Masons. They would have their statewide confabs here. These windows on the south side, they had shutters, iron shutters. They were always closed. There were a couple of years where the steeple was gone. It was hit by lightning and it needed to be replaced. So there's only a few pictures of the church without its steeple. Well, it's a chunk of time that saw massive changes in society in America, and those were reflected in Burlington, in Church Street, in terms of how people got around, how they shopped, hitching posts to parking meters, and so many changes. It's really kind of mind-boggling.
Church Street has changed a lot throughout the last 200 years, and thank you, Bob, for this walk through history. And we will get stuck in Vermont with you again real soon. The Church Street Marketplace turns 45 this fall, and we will get stuck in Vermont with you again real soon. And there's not supposed to be bikes on the Church Street Marketplace, but I have seen so many bikes, let me tell you. You can read the 7 Days cover story 24 hours on the Church Street Marketplace.